Friends and enemies, welcome back. Canadian Bitcoiners podcast, a Wednesday night interview rip. True Heather is with me. She comes highly recommended. A few of my guests have talked to me about her in the background. Sly Goomba, Dave Bradley most recently. And I have to say, I was just talking to Len today at the office, and I don't know much about Heather's silos of expertise. She is a hypnotist. She is a practitioner, a holistic individual. I think one thing I will agree with her on right away is that the mind is underappreciated in terms of its effect on not only your health, but probably the health of others around you and vice versa, which, as someone who's like in their 30s, I'm part of that generation who watched a lot of, there is no God videos in university and stuff like this. And it really did like set me back a decade in terms of what it means to be spiritual and the difference between being spiritual and religious and all these different things. But maybe we can do some of that damage tonight. But first, the sponsors, EasyDNS is the best place for you to host, buy, port, and all that stuff, a domain. You guys know Mark. You love Mark. He's the friendly neighborhood registrar. Len and I have been using Mark now for the better part of, I want to say close to 3 years. Maybe 4 years, 3 years, something like that. It's been a while. We host our website there. We host the Bull Bitcoin link there, among other things. I've registered a few domains over the years personally as well. And every time it is a piece of cake. You can pay with Bitcoin if you want. Can't beat that. Mark, the original Bitcoin balance sheet company. Long before Sailor, there was Jeff DeVick. And if you're a Bitcoin enthusiast, you can use their virtual private server suite to do any number of things. You can run a BTC Pay server, Bitcoin node, Nostr relay. There's probably other stuff. I don't know. You name it. And then for a couple extra bucks, you can get domain share on top of your domain. I don't know if you guys saw this latest Google phishing attempt. People saying that they're getting emails from Google where Google says they've had to release your account activity as part of a subpoena. And then when you go to the support page to log in, they grab your login info. Stuff like that doesn't happen with domain share because there's ways to avoid having your domain spoofed in that way. But Google, they don't care. Coinbase, they don't care. Probably other companies that I'm not going to name, they don't care. But Mark cares. So go over, use the promo code CBP Media and get 50% off your first round of buys at EasyDNS. Our second sponsor is Bull Bitcoin. They are the best in silo for buying Bitcoin, selling Bitcoin, all those things. I'm not selling, but you might be. And if you're thinking about selling to do, I don't know, pay some bills maybe, or like do something fun or go to Home Depot, they have options for you. You don't have to sell your Bitcoin for fiat. You can buy a gift card. Nice, good feature. A lot of places have that though. What a lot of places don't have is bills. You want to pay a mortgage payment? They got you. Bills. You want to pay your electrical bill? Probably they got you. Bills. Oh my God, I got a dry mouth here. I think I might be getting sick. You want to pay your university tuition? I don't know why you'd be going to a fiat university, but if you are, bills got you there too. You can't beat what they have over at Bull Bitcoin. Not to mention private by default, non-custodial. We know this. We talk about this all the time. And run by a group of extremists in both official languages, which you cannot beat. Go over, use the promo code. And actually, the promo code now, if you use it, gets you 25% off of the fees. So Bull obviously charges a bit of a scalp on top, though very little. 25% off the fees. So instead of the $21, you basically get that discount for life, which to me is a lot better deal. I don't know when they came up with that, but they told us that the other night in the group chat. So there you go. Looking forward to seeing you guys continuing to buy Bitcoin, stacking sats, all those things. Heather is here. I was just saying before we got on the air that I am like not only outmatched in expertise on matters of the spirit, but also in matters of decor. You have a rather busy background there. It looks great. There's some characters I don't recognize. Maybe we'll talk about that too. But first, how are you? Thanks for coming. It's good to meet you, I guess. This is your first time on the show. Like I said, you come highly recommended. Tell me a bit about yourself. Who is True Heather?
Hi, Joey. Nice to meet you too. Thanks for having me. It's so interesting because as you were saying how you probably got like a bit pushed back in your experience with spirituality because of being an atheist, it sounded like you were saying. And it's so funny because as I was getting ready, just like in the bathroom today, right before this interview, I was thinking the thought that came to me was, oh, maybe people are atheists because they don't have a word that they like to represent God.
Maybe.
Like or like source, because there's like source, design, divine, spirit, higher self. Like there's all these words for God. Anyways.
I'm not sure like what my idea of like religion is, but I do know that, like I think like a lot of guys, probably specifically males actually, Heather, if I had to guess, everyone goes through this phase where like the idea of, for me, I was raised Catholic, going to church becomes annoying more than anything else. And then you're like, how do I get out of this? And you find yourself looking at videos like, Hitchens and Sam Harris and these guys. And you're like, I'm going to go tell my parents that I don't think none of this is any good. And like, I get that. There's like, coming of age value there, but I do wish that I had stayed in that community a little longer, and we can get to that, but I want to like know more.
Cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I just think just on that last point is like that, it's kind of some of those religions became like not evolving with the time. So
Right.
then people really went away from God, but we can get into that later. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's like, I'm a woman of many hats, so I can do many things. The main thing is I can kind of resolve or seriously improve any issue or condition. Being a hypnotherapist, like there's always an aspect to every illness, every condition, every behavior, every complex behavior,
Okay.
every disease, like everything, there's always an aspect, an emotional, psychological aspect.
Okay, tell me. Oh, I have static on my mic here. I can hear it too.
Sure.
I'm gonna hold on. Let me see if I can figure this out. This is so annoying, by the way, having a board so close to your computer because everything is like touching all the time. Heather, you keep talking. You make a lot of sense. Keep talking.
Sure. So we were just talking about, this realm of mind. And sometimes what happens is that people often think that mind is like mental, like in the sense of like I've got to change my thinking, or I've got to somehow find a way to like control myself or be more motivated or have more or like procrastinate less. When actually it's usually like an emotional, psychological, or what I would call like a metaphysical issue. So this is maybe just getting into the depths of the depths, but from doing like over 8,000 hypnosis sessions, which has been my career for the last 13 years, even though I've evolved into coaching entrepreneurs and business people and practitioners and doing a lot of like Wendy Rhodes type of mindset coaching. I really started to see how, yeah, sure, there's an element of being in the mind that is, well, it's just, we're all holistic. This is funny. I'll just take over the podcast and welcome. No. He's obviously having some technical difficulties. I didn't actually go onto the YouTube so I could see the chat, but I'm going to go there right now because I wanted to. Because my guess is that this is live. So I'm going to go on and see who I can see, because this is live on YouTube, right? Okay, let's see. Oh, you're back. I'm just looking at the live. Maybe we have people in the chat too. Okay, yeah, you do have some static. Okay. I just wanted to come in on YouTube too so I could see who's in the chat. Ask me any questions. Maybe I could give a little bit of background about myself. I actually was just thinking about this today. I've been working at this co-working space. And that's weird. I guess Joey's having microphone problems for anybody tuning in. And I'll just tell you guys a little bit about myself, because I think that's what he was going to ask me anyway. And it just so happens I wrote a little bit of a bio for this co-working space that I just started working out of, and it's probably perfect for right now because basically I've been like a hypnotherapist and a hypnosis trainer for 13 years, and helping people really create change from the inside out. Lots of times I would say feeling better is an inside job, or your business is personal, because everything that comes up in us is part of how we show up. And so basically I would guide people through the emotional reactions and subconscious patterns that life brings up so they can move from surviving to thriving. And so it's like the way to is through. So I basically pulled my business online in 2020. Many things went online and didn't go back because that's a great location of freedom. But also like went through the hell of the last 5 years. Like all of us, and it's really isolated. We kept my business online. And so in a dark night of the soul, especially financially. Like when you start to wake up to how all of your hard work and effort just ended up with a big tax bill, or you didn't really, like for me with my business, I didn't really get, I'm just talking. I was just doing my little bio.
That was incredible. Listen, that's a great debut by you because I could not figure out what the hell just happened to my mic, but I'm pretty sure there's like too many things going on, like with power.
Is it better now?
It sounds better. Everyone in the chat says better. Okay, so we're good. Okay, so you're talking about your bio. Great. What like can you give me like the 10-second version and then we can continue? I hope.
Yeah.
I feel like we got to give you a round of applause for this effort. I've never had to do that before, and you just carried it for like probably a few minutes at least.
I mean, this is the thing, right? When you have a spiritual grounding, everything just works out as it's meant to.
That was very good. Very good. So, so tell me,
So
you know what I want to know, Heather, from you? Looking at
What?
your Twitter feed and like listening to some of your shows, you are into something that I've had a keen interest in, and I also, I also dated pre apps and all these other things. And you've been talking a lot about dating as a Bitcoiner in a fiat world. And so this is an interesting topic to me because I have a brother-in-law who's single, my brother is single, and I hear some stories from them about not only like the quality of people they're meeting, and this is not a shot on women, but I don't have any of the opposite sex experience to draw on. You, I'm sure, could fill that gap for me. I don't really think there's a lot of quality people in the dating world, not because they're not good people, but because the incentives are, sort of structured in such a way that dating is now like this sort of fast and furious 1 week, 2 weeks at a time. If it's not perfect, I move on. I don't work at it situation or scenario. I'm curious, do you feel like that? Like what is it that, first of all, what is it that made you start talking about this in the Bitcoin realm? Bitcoin and romance, by the way, hardly ever mentioned in the same sentence, but you seem to be doing it now. So what made you start talking about that? And maybe just tell me, like, what do you think?
Like number one, there's just such a need for it. Oh, now I'm getting feedback. Okay, I'm gonna go grab my headphones. Sorry, hold on.
That's okay. I'll talk. So the reason that I find this interesting, honestly, is because when I think about my own dating experience, I could not imagine being like like if you're going to date somebody, you can't bail at the first sign of difficulty or friction because you just don't know each other that well when you first meet. And if you meet somebody in a situation where you find that you're going to have a favorable outcome, then I think you owe it to the possibility of that outcome to see it through past the first bit of difficulty. But nowadays, it doesn't seem like people are doing that. And so I'm just wondering, maybe all this stuff is like kind of floating around in my head. I haven't thought about this in a long time, but listening to you and reading your stuff, I'm thinking about it. And I want to know why you're talking about it.
Yeah, so you're getting into all the weeds, which is really why I devoted a whole season to it. Because first of all, that's why I started doing it because it's a conversation that I think needs to be had in Bitcoin, around Bitcoiners, for Bitcoiners, and just because there's so many great dudes that are single, first of all. So it's like, and relationships affect everything. Like, and there's beliefs, and like you said, there's different values, there's like limited mindsets that can happen. And it's funny because I just recorded with Sly Goomba, and that's my next coming up episode, and he's hilarious and a Bitcoiner that's dating, right? So yeah, um, there's been all of these layers, like those time preference, and like you said, is it just a quick fix, go on an app, order a date like a cheeseburger because 'cause you're craving something, these are things that we explore, but also that whole thing of, like, finding someone with that's like-minded isn't just, like, at the whim of, like, the fiat, high time preference and, like, hypnosis of, like, um, dopamine and instant gratification and all that. Like, all of the same themes that come into Bitcoin dating. But I will say, just like anything else, there's some limited thinking, because, like, when you started this, podcast, and do you mind if I just, like, call you out on your brain for a
Go
second?
ahead. Do me a favor before you do it. When you put your AirPods on, it started using
Yeah.
your AirPods as a mic. You got to switch back to your Shure in the StreamYard
I
settings.
checked it, though.
It probably did it automatically. This is so funny because we on this show almost never have this problem, and we're absolutely just cruising here with like all
It
my
says when
problems.
using my microphone.
Okay, all right. Well, let's keep going
Yeah.
then. Yeah, I don't know. These guys in the chat, my
Okay.
chat is so picky about everything. There's no doubt about
But
that.
I still have, like, a weird reverb even in the headphones. Like, I can hear myself,
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, I don't know what to do about
exactly,
that.
you know? Okay, so anyways, I'm gonna,
Call me out.
talk about the mind, yeah, because you started the podcast and you said, "Oh, my mouth is dry, I'm probably getting sick." So that's like, yeah, no one gets sick like that. Like, it's like, that's, like, pretty much, like, self-hypnosis, plus if you keep drinking all that milk, you're for sure gonna get sick.
What is wrong with milk?
Well, if your glands or your lymph is, like, needing to detox, it's just gonna slow it all down, so it's not bad, but if you feel like you might be getting sick, then for sure don't drink milk and say that you're probably gonna get sick. Anyway.
It's it's been interesting. Like I was saying, when I think about like romance and Bitcoin, which obviously I do not do that often, but it's been interesting over the years going to meetups, a couple of conferences, talking to men and women on this program, and just hearing their stories about like they're either single or with somebody, right? Everyone's got that story. You're either one or the other. And in Bitcoin, the one thing that I've been sort of surprised not to hear is that I started dating somebody or got married before I found Bitcoin. Because most of us are like, 7 years in. I don't know how far you are in on your journey, but like I'm 7 or 8 years in. I met somebody before Bitcoin and before I had my time preference aligned with, where it should be and my monetary thoughts and these sorts of things, my thoughts about the future. And then we ended up splitting because I couldn't get that other person on the same page. And I'm always surprised to hear that because I think about the ways that I've changed since I found Bitcoin. And I was with my wife already for a few years when I found Bitcoin. And maybe it's because we were aligned on these things anyway, and maybe what it means to be a Bitcoiner is not actually stacking sats, but everything else. And stacking sats is the last piece. You can reconcile that difference with somebody, right? If they think Bitcoin is this dumb hobby, which honestly my wife probably may still think. I have no idea, but it's the other stuff that gets you to Bitcoin. That's the important thing. What do you think those other things are? What are the things that Bitcoiners should be looking for in a relationship? You're on the hunt, I suppose. Is that an offensive term, on the hunt? I'm not sure, but
I'm not on the hunt actually, but I do like to have the conversation about dating. And I mean, I was like married for 12 years, divorced for like 10 years. I did a bunch of dating. I'm like, Gen X. So I love the conversation. And we've been talking to married Bitcoiners too, and like about, what happened when they found Bitcoin after being married. So you're right. It's just a full breadth of conversation. But what I think is that sometimes there's like a belief that somehow being in a relationship could like slow you down or stop you from sticking as much or being as focused or whatever. And I think that, yeah, maybe if you didn't find like a teammate, like if you didn't find like a woman that's like, because like also finding the right woman can just lift you up and like exponential growth. It's sort of like doing hypnosis or like any sort of inner journey. It's like everything happens faster, bigger, better when there's that unity and we're co-creating. So sometimes I think it's not so much about what they should look for as much as like being open to exactly what is going to help you get there. So sometimes people get really discouraged because of like past experiences, and then they create limitations in their mind about what's possible. Like, do you know how many people, like, if you suggest a possibility to someone, they'll say, "Well, no, I've proven that's not true. This has happened the same for me over and over and
Is
over."
that a confidence thing, you think?
No, I think it's a misunderstanding of how life works thing. Yeah.
Oh, tell me more. Tell me more. Go into detail
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
because it's like if you're basing your belief of what's possible in the future based on the past, one, you don't understand how creation works, and two, you don't understand, like, what every experience does to help you get there. So sometimes if people are stuck on certain aspects of past relationships, since we're using this as an example, it could pigeonhole them into an idea of, like, what's possible, or they haven't really processed what they were meant to see and learn from that for their own growth to get up to the next level, to meet a next level chick.
So, okay. Can we talk about what the next level chick should look like? Because I'm really not sure. Like I said, I think I found a good partner. And it's funny, when I was when I was in my 20s, what I used to hear from like my dad, for example, would always be, you need to find someone who challenges you and, sort of brings the best out in you. And the older I get, the more I realize that that was wrong. The more I realize that what I need is someone who, complements my skills with their own. And the challenge that I have to find is actually one that's, something that I'm passionate about, like, my work or my podcast or my fitness or whatever. And the person on the other side of the relationship should be, like someone who's encouraging you, someone who's there with you, a sidekick, a partner, as opposed to, just someone who is reminding you that you can't do things a certain way and trying to protect you and things like that. And do I have that right, you think, or is there another kind of, partner that people should be looking for?
No, I just think that it's very personal because what you might want, oh, I think it sounds better now.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think, yeah, that's way better. Um, that's good. Thanks for the tech tips, chat. I think that it's highly personal because what you needed and wanted is likely different than what someone else needs and wants. Like, and it's very different. Like when you're looking for a mate to have a family and have children, than say for me, like I've had my child's 15. Where I'm going in this next phase of my life isn't the same as when I was building a family.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's highly individual. And I think the benefit of being a Bitcoiner and going out into the world, or like my friend Katie says in our episode, to the marketplace, like you said, on the hunt. I love how married people talk about dating. She says to the marketplace, you say on the hunt.
Listen, that's probably like one of the nicest things you could say. Like, I've called the Tinder realm a number of different names: meat market, overnight delivery. There's a lot of things you could call it, but I don't think on the hunt is that bad.
Well, it's just flawed because ideally you're not.
Are you looking at the chat? The chat
Yes.
is complaining. Listen, I'm trying to
Oh,
figure
because
out.
you turned it down. Like, oh, I see. It's just quiet or the reverb.
No,
Here,
I
let
don't
me
hear any
switch my
reverb.
mic.
The echo's gone, but you are a little quiet.
Let me switch my mic and see,
Okay,
and just switch it.
here we go. See if we can get it going.
Test, test, test. No, I still hear that in the background.
Same.
It's on my end though.
The funny thing about
everything
StreamYard
is
is that,
how-
and I tell my people this all the time, that you have good equipment, but you're fighting uphill against YouTube and against StreamYard every time you put a mic on your stream.
Like live is different because I
For
always
sure.
record on here too, but live makes it all different.
Yeah, it's a little different. I think I might be able to boost your mic settings too. Let me see if I can do it. Adjust settings for
I'll
Heather.
just talk
If I
and
like
you
bump
can
it up
test,
to 200.
testing.
I hear you okay. So
Okay, that's okay.
yeah. So
Echo, but volume is better. I can hear the echo too, but it might just be how it is. I don't know.
okay, so tell me then.
I'll
what-
just go deeper and deeper. You are getting
the alpha, not the alpha, but like the ideal sort of partner. Where do you come down? As someone who's done it once, presumably I don't know if you're dating or dating somebody now, then maybe you want to do it again. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I just think that we learn the most about ourselves when we're in a relationship. So as much as there's a great time sometimes to pause, to get to know yourself, like sometimes people just move from one relationship to the next, or they're really codependent, or they don't have the space in there. I don't have two mics plugged in.
I can hear you fine. So I don't know. Like
I'm not gonna worry about it
myself
anymore.
louder because I have my own headphones up, but I hear you fine. I wouldn't. Yeah. And
Like, I can
it's
still hear
if
my
it's too quiet, then
reverb,
I'll fix
but-
it after the fact. I'm not that worried about it on the audio side.
Okay. Yeah, because it's kind of distracting.
Yeah. Anyway, keep going.
So yeah. I think the most important thing is like interdependence, because like it's good to depend on each other. It's just like if you're in a relationship and it's not conducive to you like learning about yourself and growing, and then growing separate together, that could cause some health problems and anger and resentment and those types of things in the future.
I think that's fair. I guess the next question, the next place I would go from there is how much time. Again, like we're talking about fiat dating, and I have heard so many stories of people who, like I said, hit a roadblock and decide this isn't worth it. I'm going to hop back on the apps. I'm going to go back to the bar or whatever. How much is too much in terms of effort these days for someone, in their 20s who has, presumably had there tons of opportunity through the apps or through school or through work or whatever to find somebody who they think, at least on the surface, they really click with. How much is too much work? Is it worth sort of putting some effort in and trying to get over those frictions to stay with someone who, has potential, I guess? I hate to talk about people in that way, but I think that's a good way to put it. Or do you just go backwards and say, yeah, I'd rather just start again. It's not worth the trouble.
That's a good question. There's different factors that come into play with that, because if you're looking to stay for the person to become like the version of them that you want, you're probably cooked. Like you have to either love the person as they are and decide that that's enough for you, or leave, in my opinion, because you can't hope that someone is going to become a version of themselves that then you will want to stay with. So that's one factor. And then the other factor is that, I'm for some reason when I'm thinking these are all guys, like not girls.
You can, like, it's fine with me.
Like I kind of feel like this is like but it is for both, for men and women. Like obviously both have to decide to because I think if we're like it's same with dating. If you're putting in too much work or you're trying to fix something or you're trying so hard, then probably stop trying, because that's probably putting so much pressure on something having to change. And like the only thing that's good under pressure is diamonds. Like nothing blossoms under pressure. Nothing grows under pressure. No one feels safe under pressure. No one comes home and relaxes and lets themselves be themselves under pressure. And I think, and women, you know, as dating, like we can just tell when the guy can't chill. You know, like we're just like then we end up choosing the one that's ignoring us because we're just so tired of these eager beavers, you know.
So there's some truth to that, I guess, that you know, playing hard to get does work. I think if I look back at my own past, yeah, I would say that that's a good tactic. It might be the most effective tactic available to most guys.
Well, it's not even hard to get. It's like secure, right? It's like being secure in your value. It's like being secure that you also trust life. Like this comes from, there's a practice called the 3 principles, and it's mind, thought, and consciousness. And the whole idea, these are principles, like how we live, how our mind works, how we perceive our reality. And the whole thing about this is like, if you've got like no trust in life, bringing someone to you or help, or like letting your relationship evolve naturally, or that you're not broken and they're not broken and there's nothing to fix. Like if you have no trust in life and you can't let life show you the way to things, then you're going to struggle way more. Your relationships are going to struggle way more. And the people that you're with are not going to feel very loved.
Where do I come down on this this complex thought you just put out there? I do sympathize with this idea that people are not broken. There's so much, like I'm drawing on my own experience. I'm a little younger than you, but we're basically the same demo. And I'm thinking back to when I was dating. There was no constant barrage of social media influencers, no constant barrage of dating apps. Even Twitter now is basically, you're always one swipe or one touch away from what's softcore in the best cases, hardcore porn in the worst. And you just like, your brain is constantly under attack from all sides about you're not good enough. You know, your dick's not big enough. You're not muscular enough. You don't have enough money. You don't have enough whatever. Right. And you know, we were fortunate not to grow up in that environment, but for people now, I can just imagine the problems it would give a young man or woman, maybe women even worse than guys, honestly. Just because you'd constantly think like, oh my gosh, I have this little problem. And because you're your own worst critic, you find yourself looking at these things with a really, really critical eye when no one else even notices, right? And so that self-conscious voice will creep into your head and become louder and louder and louder until it's the only voice you hear. And then it doesn't just affect your relationships, it affects your personal life. And one thing, Heather, that I do think, you know, although I am not spiritual per se, one thing I do think is that your vibe attracts your tribe. And, you know, if that's your vibe, you're going to find that you're very much alone out there a lot of the time. And it magnifies, and it's a flywheel of negative thoughts, negative environment, negative outcomes, negative thoughts, negative environment, negative outcomes. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, because when I think about what community means for a lot of people, community used to mean sports teams, you know, what I think are typically called third places, right? You have your work, your school or whatever, and then a third place where you go to hang out and be you and grow as you. That third place now is Twitter for a lot of people, or Instagram for a lot of people, or like a parasocial relationship with like Chamath and David Sachs on All In or whatever, right? Like you can't do that. And it's, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's, you know, all this stuff together leads me to believe there is a need for the things you're talking about. And, you know, maybe we can use this as a jumping off point to, I mean, you've already taken a shot at me over my milk, so we may as well continue down this path. Your ideas around health and personal wellness and things like this. I have never been to a naturopath. I have never been to a holistic healer. Up until like 2 years ago, I thought Reiki was a Pokemon that maybe was around after I was into it. And now I'm kind of hearing about these things more and more. I'm seeing them on TV. And I'll tell you that my wife went to a naturopath a few years ago, and this naturopath actually helped her with a problem she was having that a traditional doctor couldn't seem to figure out. And so I have a sympathetic ear for these things in a way that I didn't before. And I want to hear a little bit about what you've done and what you talk about, and why this is important. Why Bitcoiners are always looking for alternatives. We are skeptical by design, and we're always looking for alternatives. Why should people be looking to holistic medicine? I think is the term you would use. Is there like a better term? I don't know. You'll tell me. But why should we be looking to that for our own physical well-being and mental well-being?
Great question. I mean, first of all, you're very lucky that you haven't had to seek any of those things out, because that means you haven't had like a condition that you've had to heal yourself. And so anyone who's had to heal something and doesn't want to just suppress it further into the organs to be stored and become a bigger disease inside is going to find holistic medicine and holistic practice, because as soon as somebody starts a healing journey and is looking for answers in allopathic medicine, they quickly realize that that's not a mechanism of healing. It's just a mechanism of suppressing symptoms. And then when you're really awakened in that sense to the fiat system of health, and you realize how many treatments that are available in our kitchen, number one being how we eat, heal the body. And not only that, like I had a client today, and she took her daughter to the doctor, and she had eczema, and I mean that's one of the biggest things that they just suppress. But then the doctor said, "Oh, you're just gonna have to live with this condition for the rest of your life." And that, like, I have unhypnotized people from that more times than you can imagine, because first of all, people need to believe that they can heal. And I mean, come on, like millions, like, I don't know, millions, but like I healed my eczema, like eczema is healable. Like that's just one example, but we could get into any disease and any illness and use this framework too. Because if you start to think about health as like a fiat versus a decentralized system, then you start to see that there are so many avenues that a person can take to heal, and that we really are holistic. Because another error of allopathic medicine is that they treat the body separate. So you have breast cancer, they cut your breasts off. And then what? Like you're not going to get any more cancer? Maybe. But the thing is, you didn't really get the message and the raise up that you get that you can from healing that condition. Like, sure, sometimes things are too far along, and sometimes that's just someone's life path. But generally speaking, to me, like a Bitcoiner that is like skeptical of the system of actually healing things in the body rather than suppressing symptoms is kind of suspect. Right?
I think that's true. I've thinking about, it's funny, the decentralized health thing is maybe a little counterintuitive until you have an injury. I've had a few sports injuries over the years. Like I've had like a knee reconstruction, Achilles tear, stuff like that. And you realize during the rehab process that actually like the issue you had was not in your Achilles tendon. It was not in your knee. It was in your hip. It was in your back. It was in your, your gait, your walk or whatever. And then to your earlier point, God, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm like, figuring this out here on the air. As you realize why your back is tight, it's not tight because you lift weights. It might be tight because you're not sleeping that well. And why are you not sleeping that well? Why are you stressed
or
out?
you have like a bunch of fear that you're holding on to and that you haven't processed.
Interesting. Fear in the
like
back.
That's the thing.
Fear in the back?
Well, kidneys, fear is in the kidneys.
Okay.
Like there's so many, because I'm always going psycho, spiritual or metaphysical, because like that's the messages that so many people don't get from their pain and from their problems. And like there's a lot of things, like I think I put my 108 modalities and cleanses that I did on X. I did a post about it. So like I did almost every type of like fast cleanse treatment that you could think of, but really what is usually the missing piece, especially if something is recurring. Like if you have like gut issues, like most people do, like in general, then you could find a diet and some supplements or do some gut testing, find out the problem, eat to heal that part of your gut. I did that before and it's like, yeah, the problem will go away. It's just sometimes there's some problems that just don't go away and then that's when they like call and say, I just like I don't know, I was thinking maybe I should try hypnosis. I just like tried everything, but really then they just say I wish I tried this first because every problem has like a psycho emotional connection.
So when you say hypnosis, people in this chat, at least I thought people in this chat would not know what that means, but it seems like people actually do. And I'm looking at the Twitter comments too. I don't know if you can see those, but there's like people telling me that I should know more about this. When you say hypnosis, you don't mean in the traditional cartoony, you're feeling very sleepy, but actually my understanding of this is now is that this is sort of like a retraining of your mind to think and feel a certain way about a sensation or about an issue. Tell me more about this because I'm in the dark totally on this topic.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, totally understandable. And no, that's kind of like a fiat definition of hypnosis because it would imply that like I would somehow go in and tell them how they're going to think or feel. And like sometimes I might do that after they've already seen it. So I'll give you an example. So the whole thing with hypnosis is that it is a kind of like, because it's ultimately taking someone into a space of relaxation. We could also call this the parasympathetic nervous system that most people know about because that's the rest and digest. It's the healing space. Because I mean, most of the people nowadays, especially people are so heightened, right? And they don't know how to relax their mind. They don't know how to go into the perceiving space. So it's a state of deep relaxation. And so there's a couple things that happen there. One, yeah, they can process and feel into things that are bothering them. They might even see more clearly what's bothering them. I mean, there's tons of questions that we can ask in that space, but instead of like me being in their mind, reprogramming it. It's more about helping to release and let go of the beliefs and the thoughts and the programs that they took on that are keeping them sick or keeping them small or keeping them single, even. Because there's a lot of little things that we took on over life that we don't realize are creating our reality. And another cool thing about the subconscious mind, which is what we have immediate access to in hypnosis, is that we can put the destination in the GPS. So the science of the subconscious mind is that what it sees, like the vision, it will execute it. So most people are just executing their vision on default. Like it's a default vision. So it could be all twisted with things of like guilt or fear or like, and they're just like imagining their reality without like really taking a brush and painting it and imagining it and envisioning it. So once that happens, then there's like just an automatic shift. Like the biggest thing people say after hypnosis, like after say a few days, a week, they're like, oh, or immediately they're like, oh, I just find myself doing that new habit I wanted to do. I just found myself, I stopped doing that because they got so clear in themselves what they really wanted. Like they really wanted the weight loss over the extra cookies at night that were comforting them. They really wanted like the intentional relationship that was aligned with their values and what they want in the future, more like attention fix or, you know, dopamine hit of dating.
Give me an example of this, like visualization. I'm an athlete, and one of the things I think about before games, intentionally or unintentionally, you envision yourself succeeding, right? Making big plays, not making mistakes. Is this akin to what you're talking about, or am I off base there?
Oh yeah, it's akin. And the main thing is like if you're envisioning something outside of say hypnosis or just even the subconscious mind, like I use a lot of perceiving spaces that's not necessarily hypnosis, but say you're not in a relaxed state doing your visualization. Then it might be that there's like certain parts of your mind that don't believe it's possible. So you're like trying to convince yourself of something instead of like dropping in, tuning into yourself, getting relaxed, and then envisioning it when the conscious mind or the guard at the gate isn't present. So, and then can I tell you a story
Of
about
course.
this pool player?
Yeah.
Okay. Because this just happened recently, and I think it's funny because part of it is like lots of people use visualization. Lots of people can imagine the goal and imagine themselves getting there, but they don't see what's getting in the way. So I went home, and my friend, he has this private pool place, and like they're hardcore, like competitive pool team. And I just like I was like rolling in there at night with him, just saying hi. I was visiting, and like, you know, we had a couple drinks and stuff. And then one of the guys, he missed like an easy shot to the 8-ball in the corner pocket. And I laughed just because I was like, I could have made that. I thought you guys were like a great team here or something. And he got like upset. And then the other teammates were like, oh yeah, like this, he's got this problem. This is his handicap. Like he gets in his head. And they're like, Heather, you're a hypnotist. Like help him like solve this problem. And like, I ended up just like going to the side and like talking with him. And like since then, been getting texts like he's been playing like a beast. He won this tournament. Like he's beating people that he never beat. Now we have to get better with. Like it was just so funny, and like that's a perfect example because he really did want to succeed, but the thing that was getting in the way was his negative self-talk, and he didn't realize how important it was to stop doing that until I told him.
How does one figure that out? Like, isn't it natural to have like doubts about your, I don't know, like athletic performances? In my head anyway, it's an easy one. You know, I can think of all the times where you're like, okay, part of the reason you prepare physically is because you have doubts that if you don't prepare, you'll be able to perform at the level you need. So when I think about that, the first thing I think is like, okay, this is a natural feeling. I'm not doing anything wrong here, but you're telling me that there's a way, maybe not a way for everybody, but there's like a way for people to tap into this part of their mind that's blocking them from performing at their peak. How does someone know the difference between those two things? Like, how are you supposed to realize that?
I don't know. You have to probably pay me to know it for you. But I don't know.
Wait a minute.
Just kidding. Because like, I mean, part of it is like, I literally spotted that in like 1 second. But I mean, I've done like 8,000 sessions. But the important thing here is to not make a prescription of this, because just because that's what his block was, doesn't mean that's everyone's block, right? Like I just saw it so clearly in the moment. Oh, he just doesn't realize that his negative self-talk isn't being like humble, or it's like actually affecting the outcome of his game because it's creating that reality. Like if you say every time you miss, oh, I always miss that one, you're creating a program for your neural pathway to always miss that one. So for every person, it's like the first thing is just being really aware of the things that you're saying, because your beliefs will just come out of your mouth. Like I would love to do I was thinking about doing a show and just talking to people and be like, oh, there's one. Oh, there's one. I'm
afraid to keep talking now because I've been basically telling you everything I believe about love, romance, and medicine for the last 45 minutes. And you're probably building me like a little client avatar to share with me.
No,
Listen,
I mean,
now,
none
Joey,
of it's
I
wrong.
gotta say, after our hour, I think you might be kind of fucked up, and it might be time to get hypnotized. How does there's so many barriers. Again, I'm speaking only for myself. So many barriers for someone like me to go from Western medicine. You used the term earlier. It starts with an A. I can't remember what the term is, but allopathic. Going from allopathic medicine to what I think most people would call, traditional medicine, or, ancient medicine, these techniques, whether it's hypnosis or the holistic medicine, holistic healing. even something like Reiki, there's a spot for this for presumably everybody. And I'm curious, you obviously do this for a living. Do you think that this is a complementary practice, this set of practices to Western medicine? Or do you think that Western medicine has this wrong?
Oh, Western medicine has it totally wrong.
Ah,
Like they only act like it's complementary because if it gets too much power, plus, generally speaking, people are paying out of it from their own pocket. And it's just like, find me one pharmaceutical that cures a condition. Like, it doesn't exist. It's not a cure. And like so many conditions, if not all, especially caught at a certain stage, can be healed. But it's not even a misunderstanding of how the body works. It's an intentional misunderstanding. It's like learning about finance in school. It's like learning investments in school. It's the same thing.
so what is the rationale then for people, presumably, like I'm trying to play devil's advocate a little bit here, but I just don't have enough information to do it, adequately. I don't think. When I think about like what's going on in, the number of kids on Ozempic in the chat, someone's saying, or the number of kids on like ADHD meds, or the number of kids on, I don't know, you name it. There's all sorts of childhood conditions now that just didn't exist or weren't recognized, or, on the sort of long tail weren't medicated for 20, 30 years ago that are medicated for so frequently now. Presumably parents, thinking again of myself here, if my daughter was ever diagnosed with one of these things, I would never medicate her under any circumstances. I would, look for other alternatives. There's got to be so many success stories from these things, or from these ailments with your style of medicine. Why are they not being shared more broadly? It's mind-boggling to me, because I think about, like I said, my wife has done this. She swears by it. For her, it was like bladder infections she was getting, and she was getting them for all the time. And then she sees a holistic practitioner one time, and that's it. Naturopath tells her what the problem is, fixes it in a month, and since then it's been nothing but smooth sailing. So these stories are shared widely, and I think there's more and more people who are realizing that medicine, especially after COVID, is not all it's cracked up, or all it's made itself up to be. So where are these success stories? Why are more people not sharing them? Are they afraid to share them? Is there a stigma? What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, like, I'm really pleased that this conversation that you're capable of having. Like, I wasn't expecting this.
Listen, I can do more than squat 2 plates. Okay, I'm a Renaissance man here. You know this. You have a podcast. You have to be a mile wide on stuff. Otherwise, you're cooked.
You're really open to. Yeah, this is good. This is good. And I mean, the question I would ask you in response to your question is, why don't they talk more about Bitcoin?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean,
it's the exact same thing. Like, these stories are everywhere. I mean, I have the blessing of living in this world of just where everything is possible, and we know that's true. But it's like, it is everywhere, but it is actively suppressed, and it is actively misinformed, just like Bitcoin. Like, I saw that Rachel Maddow talking about like Beanie Babies, Bitcoin Beanie
Richard
Babies.
Maddow is the worst person on TV.
And like, it's the same. Like, they literally talk, like, every few months there's something in the news or Hollywood or TV making hypnosis seem like a control technique or control mechanism. And while we could go like into the dark hypnosis of things, but like, really the dark hypnosis of things is like all mainstream media, all the blogs by moms paid for by mainstream media and the government, and all of the,
oh my God, mommy blogs catching a stray on CBP. That's a first. That's on nobody's bingo card. Okay, keep going. Keep going.
It's true though. They get the most shared because they're like, oh yeah, your poor child. But the thing is that it's like a misinformation campaign, just like finance and investment. And ultimately to not have people see the truth, to not have people see that the government is causing inflation. Like, just like the hospitals are causing, you know how many problems, like trauma I've helped people through because of problems because of the medical system. And then they have to not only try to heal the problem that they got into this mess with suppressing and surgeries and stuff, but then they have to heal the anger and the grief that they have at this system for not having their best interest at heart.
It's difficult to come out of
You
that.
know,
Like
it's-
my wife and I
it's
just had a little
painful.
one a little while ago, and the number of things they want to do to a newborn baby is like mind numbing.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And so, you know, I'm going to keep you a little longer than an hour because I fucked up my mic and then we just got fucked up with the audio.
I have time, so that's
good.
okay. Yeah.
There's a couple of the questions I want to ask you. And these are questions that I've considered over the last day or two as I was thinking about talking to you. I will admit fully to the people listening and watching that they are selfish questions. They may not interest you, and I don't care. If you don't like them, you can start your own show. Heather and I both have one. It's not that hard to do. The thing I'm curious about from the hypnosis side of things is, how did you learn this? Is this like a talent that is acquired, or is it natural? Is it nurtured? Like what is this thing that you guys are doing in this space? And how do people, you know, not that I want to like, you know, start doing business on your corner, but how does somebody learn or get into this? It's so off the beaten path. And to your point earlier, actually, it's funny. You know, when I think about RESP investments for my daughter, everyone wants me to do an RESP. I just think I don't want to send her to a government school. And I don't think you can go to a quote unquote government school for any of the stuff you have learned. So how did you learn it? Like, where did this stuff come from?
Yeah, great question. Yes, it is like acquired, learned, nurtured, and there's somewhat of a natural gift to it, I think, too. So personally, I did take a course. Like I initially took a course and, you know, had a huge awakening from it, and things changed for me. But then actually I've trained and certified over 300 practitioners. So I actually teach and train hypnotherapists. So anyone can learn. Anyone can learn. I mean, it's actually very easy to hypnotize someone. Like I can literally hand you a script to read and you could hypnotize someone. Like it's very easy. The hardest part is like kind of the pre-hypnosis, or like, you know, like already if you came to me for hypnosis, you would be very good at going into hypnosis because I've already prepped you. I'm just kidding.
Did I remember consenting to that. Do we not live in a world of consent here?
Like,
what's going on?
Yeah, but it's not. It's just because like we already have a rapport.
Right. Okay.
There's no sneaky tricks.
Huh. Okay.
It's just rapport, right? And then like having an understanding of like what the expectations are. Because it's actually, well, we see it all the time. Like there's certain ways that it's easier to hypnotize someone, but like anyone can learn to hypnotize someone. And I actually thought it would be really fun to do a show and like just be like the hypnosis in the media this week, because it's like hypnosis is everywhere. But the thing about it is like it's sometimes easier. Like if someone's afraid, it's easier to like drop them into hypnosis. If someone's in like a heightened state. And then lots of people will say, I can't get hypnotized. I went on stage. I don't think I'll be able to get a benefit from getting hypnotized.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, like someone in the chat said, Ravine. But actually everyone really can be. It's just like they don't want to be like vulnerable necessarily, like on stage to do funny things in front of their work colleagues. So yeah, it's like, and it's something that's obviously growing. Like I have a sticky note on my thing.
Oh, here we go.
Here, let's see what it says. So it says actually 31.3% of 12 billion is the estimated USD hypnotherapy estimated growth from 2024 to 2030. So like 31% of 12 billion. And, you know, the reason for this is because we are at a all-time high of people with anxiety and conditions, psychological conditions. psychological imbalance.
But
is
isn't
probably
everything a
better word.
psychological condition, right? Like you think that like, you have a gut problem, it's related to your psychological. Yeah. I think there's some truth to that for sure.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like like acutely in the sense, or like chronically in the sense of like anxiety and depression, like the stuff that's like making people unable to like live well and happily and fulfilled. And we could argue, fiat's a major cause of this condition. you know, we could argue like our whole society is a cause of this condition, but it's like more than ever, people need to find peace within. And it's like you said, that third thing becomes online and very disconnected from reality. And then, like you said, if there's like these sort of, well, I think there's unrealistic expectations, but I also think that people are getting triggered and people are feeling things. And like, I mean, one of the major things I do still in my practice, even from like high level, like company leaders, is like the fear of like that comes from the media. Like people are so angry about the world and they're so angry at each other and they're so afraid for the future for their children. And to me, that's just a result of watching mainstream media and getting in these bubbles in social media where people just keep saying the same things.
Yeah, everything is echo chamber based now because it's easier, number one, to exist in that world, but number two, you find people who are aligned with you on the positive stuff and they're also aligned with you on the negative stuff, and oftentimes that latter half is the larger half when it comes to the amount of content you're consuming. Okay, last question.
Yeah, like
here.
if our country, just one thing, because if our country votes Carney, it's fully because they made everyone angry at Trump. Like it's got nothing to do with Carney.
I know.
Being a suitable candidate.
It's almost unbelievable to think about the hypnosis, to use your term, that the Canadian public has been put under since Trump became the president of the United States for a second time, has been wild to watch. People forget that during COVID, there was stories about the Canadian government using that as an opportunity to test out psychological operation techniques on the public. And they think that I guess they just found God, all of a sudden, and they're not doing it anymore. But I would caution them against that line of thinking. It sounds like you would do the same. The French debate is on tonight. It probably just ended. I should watch it after this, but I don't know. Now I'm thinking it might be bad for my mental health.
Maybe.
Last question. If you had to tell let's say someone comes to you and they're curious about what you could do for them, you're going to ask them a number of questions probably to see if they're a suitable candidate for some of the stuff that you can do, some of the expertise that you have. What are the questions people who are listening and watching should be asking themselves if they're thinking about going to see Heather or another person, another holistic healer or hypnotist in their area? Is it, I just don't feel like myself? Is it, I just don't feel healthy? Is it, I'm, like you said earlier, hitting the same roadblocks at work or in relationships or at the billiard hall? What is the maybe first question you think people should be asking? And, what is the answer to that question that should guide them to someone like you?
I think that it's probably doesn't matter the question that they ask, but it's just if there's anything that they can't do themselves, like they can't heal this thing, they can't feel better about this, they can't stop being angry, they're really stuck in their emotions, or like a lot of people will just come like they want to change their habits. They want to stop being triggered by their family. They want their business to be more successful, or they want to get out of the fiat job and have a Bitcoin business. There's like any goal can be exponentially arrived at faster by using your mind. Sometimes it might unfold that that's not actually really what you want. You just think you want that. So let's get to what you want and then let's do that. But that's more, that's for a deeper conversation. And ultimately, I think like to everyone who's listening, it's not really that complicated. It's just that I think part of the programming of this fiat system that we live in is that somehow something's wrong with you and you have to fix you, and you should be able to do that on your own. And if you're not making more money, if you're not getting healthy from our healthcare, then it's you and you're broken, and it's probably your genetics, or it's probably something incurable. But ultimately, those things are like where you have to come together is like, you're not broken. You can be empowered to take control of your health and your wealth, but ultimately you might not be able to do it alone. And so both are true. Like, you're fine the way you are, but if there's something you're stuck with, reach out.
That's a good place to leave it. Tell people where they can find out more about you, Heather. Unhypnotized. I have to say, I enjoyed our conversation. I hardly ever talk about matters of the spirit and mind on this program. And I enjoyed our discussion. I hope we can do it again once I sort out what's wrong with StreamYard and leave an angry comment on their support page. But in the meantime, tell people about your podcast. Tell people where they can find out more about you professionally and all that stuff. The floor is all yours.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we need to do a part 2. And because I never got to ask, like, when are we setting the date for you to challenge Dave in being the most good-looking and strong Bitcoin entrepreneur?
I personally think that Dave's criterion are wrong. I'm obviously more handsome. I have softer features. I'm younger. My body fat percentage is lower. I probably squat more.
Is that more handsome? Like, are those features more handsome?
I don't know. In my head, I'm manifesting it. So, what's that worth? I'm not sure. But
I just want to see you in the ring. I want to see you both in the ring. I think we should do like a whole championship. Anyways, thanks so much for having me. I mean, probably the best place to find me is my YouTube podcast, which is Unhypnotized, on the Coin Beast channel, and also on X at Unhypnotized BTC.
There we go. True Heather, thank you for coming. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time. Until then, don't do anything that I wouldn't do, and manifest good outcomes for yourself.